Right, my name's Dominic Tristram. As you can see, my first slide is self-explanatory. This isn't going to be a part of this talk. I mean, I'm here on behalf of the Green Party, hence the branding, blah, 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 but I'm not going to say vote for us. Should. But, of course, when we talk about cities and what it's like to live in them, that is politics. So I'm not going to talk about party politics, I'm going to talk about what makes a city livable and how actually that is a political decision, and how the local authority and actually the wider authority, because we're in a metro area now, it's all everyone in that has an impact. Now, of course, this has been done elsewhere in the world. This isn't a new thing. Lots of people living all over the place think, well, let's make our city a bit more livable. And this is a good example. Vancouver in Canada, who a couple of years ago made the decision they wanted to be the greenest city in the world. And they didn't just talk about it and sort of waffle on about it and sort of wave their hands. They said, let's make a plan which we're going to stick to. We're going to buy in. There'll be hard, measurable achievements we can make to measure ourselves against it. So when we in Bath are thinking, how do we make a city livable? Why reinvent the wheel? Let's see what they did in Vancouver and see if we can apply it to Bath. So what I'm going to do in this presentation is Vancouver is much bigger than Bath, but actually it's quite densely populated for Canada. So some of the things they've done are kind of applicable. So what I'm going to do is, this is a very whistle-stop tour, because obviously it's 20 seconds a slide. They've got 10 goals, and I'm going to say what they were, how they've done against them, and how that might apply to Bath. So bear with me, because 10 goals in another 10 slides-ish is going to be quite tough. Some of them I'll skirt over if they're not so relevant to Bath. So, climate and renewables. Vancouver have the goal of eliminating dependence on fossil fuels. In 10 years they want to reduce their emissions by a third. And how they're going to do it is not make all of this current demand renewable. They're going to massively reduce demand and then make the rest of it renewable. Now this is entirely doable. This is how they're going to do it. This is where they are now, and you see actually what they're going to reduce is from not just transport, from buildings use up a huge amount of energy, transport waste, landfill, gas that's produced from landfill. If you eliminate a whole bunch of things, like if you green your transport, you green your waste stream, you actually can stop emitting fossil fuels. Buildings, lots of relevance here, there's lots of architects sitting around, lovely. Buildings are really bad, actually, when it comes to emissions, and actually Canada's not so bad because it's cold, they're quite well insulated. Buildings in Bath are terrible, really, really, really bad. One of the easiest ways we can make Bath greener, cheaper to live in, and more livable is to get better building codes. There's only so much we can do about that, because obviously the national government makes a lot of decisions. Transport, Adam did really good talk on that. I'm not going to say much about it. Obviously, Bath is very walkable, it's quite small. Vancouver have done really well. Half of their trips are actually by walking, cycling, public transport. This is what you need to do. It's kind of obvious stuff. Improve walking and cycling infrastructure. Sharing bikes and cars. We've got bike sharing in Bath, but let's get car sharing run by the council. Probably get people on board and companies. Get some light rail and trams. Build things where things are close to other things. Build Foxhill, yeah, put a school in it, put shops in it, put offices in it, whatever. Don't just build houses in the middle of nowhere. Waste. So this is quick, isn't it? Reduce waste by 50%, and that's a good goal. And look how they've done. It's gone down this bit. They've got a huge lot left. Bath is very good, actually, in many ways. We're good at recycling food, but obviously what we do is we turn that into electricity. That's not good. Compost it into things to grow stuff into. Bath, this is the figures for Bath. You can look at your leisure in the future. We're not actually reducing the amount of waste collected. That's what we should be looking at. It's all very well recycling, but actually we need to stop people throwing stuff away. This is the council itself. Can't do much about that, but it can make a huge, they can pressure companies that operate in Bath to do it. We're very lucky, access to nature. We all, well, not everyone in Bath, but it's a small place, there's lots of green areas. Bath has 250 hectares of parkland and open space. Actually, as cities go, that's pretty good. There's not many places where in Bath you can't walk somewhere green. So we're actually pretty good there. This I'm not talking about much because actually, sadly, in my political opinion, the water is privatised, I can't do much about it. In Canada, actually, the council and the local authority can completely decide how they do this. So their water, they can make it cleaner, they can reduce waste, they can change the costs, they can make it free for the poor, etc., etc. We're really able to do about that. But what we can do is local food. It saddens me to see gardens paved over. Really saddens me. Flooding, it's terrible for flooding, and people are just buying food they could grow easily themselves. There are allotments. Actually, this is quite good in Bath. When I first put myself down for allotment, it was a 10-year waiting list. It's now 1 year. Clean air. Vancouver, one of the cleanest air of any major city in the world. Air in Bath is terrible. I mean, other people have touched on this. It doesn't need to be. It is outrageous that it costs me more to get the bus into town than it costs to drive. I can park for 2 hours and drive for less money than one bus journey. That needs to change. Mutualised buses should get by people. Green economy. This leads on from actually doing all this stuff. Because if you start recycling, and if you start putting out waste, and if you start composting, if you start growing stuff in the city, then you actually create jobs which are sustainable. It kind of follows through. You don't actually have to legislate for it. And this is all the same sort of thing. If you plan a city and how you live in a city to be the lighter footprint, to be sustainable, then actually sustainable jobs just come, they magically appear as if, they are in demand. If you say everyone has a cycling brand, people will start bike shops and bike maintenance and so on. This is a very, the council itself can actually practice for the preachers. The Council of Vancouver, massive reduction in waste and emissions. Bath Council, there is absolutely no reason why it can't use 100% renewable electricity. These are the sort of things that need to be done to make them not look like hypocrites. But vision is important. Vision, the council have to do it. This is the most critical thing. But you do need clear actions with achievable steps, and you've got to be able to measure people against them. But nobody can do this on their own. So the council have to do it, the people have to do it, the businesses involved have to do it. And that is the end of my very fast